Mr. Secretary, the number of children who have come across our southern border on your watch and Joe Biden's watch is estimated at 481,535. Last year alone, it was 137,000. And if you compare that to the last year of President Trump's term, on his watch in the last year of his term, it was less than 25,000. So a pretty significant and dramatic increase of unaccompanied children coming across the southern border. The New York Times says that your department has lost contact with 85,000 minors, and that statistic is over a year old, so undoubtedly it has risen in the past year. Congressional Research Service says that 75 to 80% of unaccompanied children are now traveling with smugglers, and those smugglers have reportedly sold migrants into situations of forced labor or prostitution, forms of human trafficking, in order to recover their cost. The Coalition Against Trafficking in Women says that 60% of unaccompanied children caught by cartels and are exploited through child pornography and drug trafficking. And the New York Times has reported that almost 1 in 3 migrant women, including a large population of young girls, are reported to be sexually assaulted, over 1 in 3 of them coming across our southern border. Mr. Secretary, is it the policy of this administration to return children, unaccompanied children coming across the southern border back to their families where they came from, or is it to send them into the United States away from their families instead?
Congressman, let me address that question as it pertains to the Department of Health and Human Services, because we don't engage in immigration activities. We accept the children that the Department of Homeland Security has encountered.
Is it the policy of the Biden administration to return children back to their families or to send them into the United States to sponsors or to someone else, never to be seen from again? What's the policy?
The administration policy, and I'll try to speak for it generally, because again, it goes beyond my jurisdiction, but generally the policy is to abide by what the law says we must do. When someone requests an asylum hearing, by law, they're entitled to an asylum hearing. So
let me ask this a different way. If a 15-year-old girl came across the border from, say, Guatemala, would we send her back to her family in Guatemala, or would we keep her in the United States?
If she requested an asylum hearing, we would, by law, be required to offer her a hearing.
How many children have we returned back to their families in the country they came from on your watch?
That would not be something I have information on, because I had Health and Human Services.
Thousands, hundreds? Can you estimate?
I'm not going to speculate, but that's something that you can ask the Department of Homeland Security.
You and I both know the answer to that is zero. Zero children that you've returned back to the country. Let me ask you this. Hypothetically, if you and I have something in common, we both have girls. If my daughter or your daughter was smuggled to Guatemala, would we expect Guatemala to return our daughters back to us, our families in the United States of America, or would we expect them to keep them in Guatemala?
Again, you're asking me to speculate, but I will tell you, I would do anything I have to do to get my daughters back.
Yeah. So why isn't the Biden administration doing that?
Because we have to respect what the law says, and the law says you have to provide someone with an adjudication of their claim for asylum.
Well, the law says that because Joe Biden has made that the law.
No,
one of his first acts as president was
that's inaccurate.
exempt unaccompanied minors under Title 42. He did that. You did that. You're responsible for that law, and you've never. By the way, have you ever come to this committee and asked us to change that law? Do you support changing that law to allow us to send those children back to their families in the country they came from?
The president has asked you all to change the law. There was a bipartisan bill to change the law.
I think I've only got a little bit of time left. I think the reason that you're doing this, Mr. Secretary, and your boss, Joe Biden, is because Democrats are getting rich off of it. The Global Refuge CEO, an NGO that you funnel a lot of money to, her salary is $520,000, and it doubled over 3 years. The former CEO of an NGO called Southwest Key Programs made $3.5 million. The new CEO makes $1 million. The CEO of Endeavors, who was an Obama administration aide, made $600,000 in 2022. A former Biden transition official who helped you vet political appointees helped Endeavors secure a $520 billion no-bid contract These groups are making hundreds of millions of dollars, and now you are asking us to give you $9.3 billion to funnel to more of these NGOs so that your Democrat friends and donors can get even more rich. I think that's shameful. It's sickening, and I'm going to do everything I can to fight against it. Madam Chair, I yield back.